It's my favourite advert this year so far we've produced. Jolly good show. Speaking of jolly, Rogers, jolly, see where I'm going? Pirate, skin sale, chest, on sale, get it now. Great skins, pirate themed. Yar, me hearties, pieces of 8.
I say this with complete and utter confidence. That is the best promo read you've done so far.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
That is not a compliment.
Put a lot of effort into it too.
Okay.
I really thought about the words as they came into my brain.
Proud of you, man.
Thanks.
That's more than usual.
Pretty much. Welcome back to the Minor League this afternoon, North America edition. We have 2 sets this week. It's not always the case, but we do have 2. There's a new team in the bracket. I believe they're called Risky Behavior.
Risky Behavior or Risky Business. It's one of the. It used to be Risky Business. That was the old team, but maybe they changed. I don't know.
Well, let's hope they don't live up to that name, shall we? Considering how North America likes to play things out just lately, as they take on, I believe it's Hype Unit here today.
That's right. Hype Unit is one of the teams to beat for sure in the North American Minor League. An expansion team that came in here in Phase 2 and has looked very, very good. This Risky Behavior squad, Germie is the hunter, Soul the support, Xenotronics, the mid laner.
I know that name.
That's a name that you should know, and maybe the only one that you might be familiar with at home. MuffinMan in the jungle, and Sumic in solo.
Have you ever seen the MuffinMan?
Yeah, I mean, I know a couple of these players from the ranked scene. Frankly, not all of them, but I mean, Xenotronics has got to be the guy for them. He's been playing a lot more recently. We'll see. I mean, Hype Unit is a top-end contender. It's a team that's been getting a lot of practice. Risky Behavior, brand new squad, was playing at the combine level. I think it might be a one-sided affair today, but this is more about getting them some experience going in for next year.
Completely agree. Let's get into picks and bans then and see how this one breaks down between the two. Obviously, talking a little bit more about this Risky Behavior business team. They had a shot to join the league to get some better experience. I think it's a really good option for them. I think the league as a standard could have just not given a spot to any team, but instead they at least put a team in there for a bit of competition.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's a zero-sum game for them, right?
Yeah.
They're good. They're just having some fun, getting a chance to see how they stack up against some of the best teams in the minor league.
Is this music?
Yeah.
We're jamming out on the desk this afternoon.
Graham, there's always picks and bans.
There isn't.
No, it's just usually not in your mix, in your ear.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's how that
You
works.
guys get this at home on a daily basis?
Yeah.
Why don't we? It's gone now.
Well,
oh, it's back.
No, it's back. That's how
thought
music
you
happens. It gets louder sometimes. And
No,
then it gets quiet.
really?
Yeah. It's a crazy
Ooh.
thing, man. You should check it out sometime. Music.
Olaram, Set, Isis, and Izanami? But is that a shot at Xenotronics?
It's got to be, yeah.
Because after the last time we saw him play in the SPL.
That's kind of toxic, man.
That's what I'm thinking. That's some BM.
Oh, no. That's not what you want to see in your first game back in the competitive
That's a really
scene.
good shot. I love it. You know what? Full credit for that bit of BM.
Xeno,
That's
I
good
hope
BM.
Could laugh about
Xeno,
it.
take that on the chin. That's a good
pretty
bit.
funny. Yeah, that is pretty funny.
Although, imagine in Game 2 if he gets hold of it and pops off, then we've got a big
hilarious.
story going on.
Yeah.
Thoth will be the selection for Risky Business in their very first game here. Probably going to be seeing the dual lane, which we've seen a lot more of lately.
Yes, it's all about getting your character that can make all these plays in the later stage of the game, as much farm as possible, as early as possible, and it's not just about getting them to the late game, because if you put Thoth in mid or Thoth in ADC, eventually they hit level 20, they get 6 items, they do the same thing. It's about those mid-game power spikes, and you can play around it really well. Still jamming, huh?
Banging tunes today. Susano, Amaterasu from Hype Unit locked in. Is a little bit flexible towards the support role, not seeing it as of much lately. Although I don't really mind her in the early game being aggressive.
No, we're going to see a lot of Ama.
Oh, she's coming back now.
Oh, absolutely. With this change that she got in the most recent update, you can't body block that dash nearly as easily. Plus, don't forget, we gave her a big damage buff to her ultimate not that long ago. Not in the same patch, but in different ones. Ama is going to be a priority pick, not just at this level. I'd be surprised if it didn't seep into the pro league.
And are we talking about support position there? We're not talking about solo, or
I think you can put it. I think you can put it both places. I think support. It depends on if you want that true guardian there. I'd be surprised if it were more solo than support, but I think you can flex it.
Her benefits definitely are the mobility she'll bring to that team. Jing also locked in as a final pick for Hype Unit before the caravan section, where it's Horus and Chernobog across the way. And you can see with Risky Business lineup so far, they've got a nice bit of global presence and long-range presence at that.
This is a pretty solid composition so far from them. They're putting Xeno on a hunter in the mid lane. That's kind of what you want right in there in this meta right now. Chernobog, one of the premier hunters to put in the mid lane overall. They've got the Horus there to set it up. I like the draft, but at the same time, Hype Unit gets Susano, Ama, Jing away. That's a lot of safety for a lot of these characters, so much mobility. Now, it will be Ama in the solo lane with this Fafnir selection. But Hype Unit's draft it's safe, it's mobile. It's going to be hard, I think, for risky behavior to get away.
Got safer with a Chaac lock-in too. That's one thing you can be sure of. He's very hard to kill for the most part. He just don't do a lot of anything.
Yeah, but he takes all the hits, and
that's what I mean.
Like, Chaac did get better with the mid-season update.
He's just a meat bag.
Because his ult knocks straight up now.
He's just a punching bag. Punching bag that does a knock up and a silence.
Yeah, but that's your job.
It's kind of what Bacchus is too, to be fair.
Yeah, that's your job.
Serqet the final pick for the team, though, for risky business, so they do have some sort of assassination kill potential on this roster then. I was a little bit concerned about where the burst damage is going to come from. Sure, tough final judgment, but you want someone else in there too.
You definitely do, and Serqet can bring a lot of that by herself just by way of exploding those poisons that she puts on you with her abilities. I like Risk Behavior's draft. Hype Units, though, I mean, Susano Ama is such a nasty combo right now, it's kind of hard for me to vote against it.
Yeah, Hype Unit, definitely confident going into this one. Let's see what the casters have to say about Game 1.
Thanks, Hendy. Thanks, Aggro. Fenton totally here as we move into Risky Behavior, our newer, well, literally new, roster here in the SMITE Minor League, going up against a tough opponent in Hype Unit who have been looking pretty strong here lately. So let's see how this new team with Xenotronics, who should be familiar to you all, how they end up working.
A very interesting challenge for them going up against the top-seeded North American team thus far with a 5-1. Very impressive record. Congratulations, Risky Behavior, for your impressive first week performance.
That's right. They get to come in with a nice clean slate. So we'll see how well they do here up against Hype Unit, who have a pretty strong draft here. I would say we've seen this Scylla a couple times now, but it has felt like it's been a bit slow to get started. That's why I like it over here in the long lane. It doesn't matter so much if it's struggling for early pressure and that sort of thing, as long as the Chernobog's not rotating too much, I'd say.
You'll definitely get the levels that you want out of the Scylla in the long lane, but boy, is it really hard to get back under your tower once you're pushing that wave.
Sure.
That Sentinel doesn't cover that much distance, and there's not really too many walls you can play around, whereas in mid, you'll have the mid camps, maybe behind your tower a smidge to get under there, but sBennyQ getting the pressure thus far over the Chernobog, pairing up with Gamma, absorbing that purple buff. Invade still has his own purple to follow.
And still had a crush left to start chipping away at this wave right away, so not a bad start for Benny and Gamma here at all. And that's the thing, it doesn't even necessarily have to be, we were talking about maybe the Scylla's susceptibility to a gank. It doesn't even necessarily have to be MuffinMan who rotates over. Soul on this Horus could rotate over too and certainly cause some problems. So Benny's got to play this particularly carefully.
But Benny's definitely a person that likes to be innovative with some of his builds.
Yes,
and
confident dude.
That doesn't surprise me that he goes for a slightly different pick on the Scylla. Some players has picked it as well in the long lane. Mages are certainly no strangers in that role any longer, but Scylla gonna need to make those execution at high demand in the mid to late game.
Risky Behavior, it feels like, is so reliant, though, on MuffinMan. I mean, who else on this team is particularly ready to go right away? I mean, Xeno has the Thoth in the mid lane when you know, common belief has you putting that Thoth in the long lane, right, where he can catch up on some farm and get started there. Here in mid, less farm. It'll be under more duress, potentially, if there's more 3v3 skirmishes. I mean, who are they leaning on in this early game?
The early game, outside of MuffinMan, I kind of have to lean on Sumic on the Chaac, especially against an Amaterasu that thrives more in the late game that needs that sustain. Like, look how much damage he's doing just by himself. If MuffinMan rotates over, that 300 health Amaterasu is going down very quickly, especially if Last Breath is available.
Well, it's time for the red buff invade here. Anatoly, Soul, and Zeal, the only ones around. But why need a red buff invade? We can just blink in and get things started as molluskk. That is vintage molluskk, if you've ever watched him play. He loves the aggression, but here's the gank you wanted for. They are going to play through Sumic to try and see if they can catch RussianPapi. The ambush lands as well, but it's not quite enough. RussianPapi survives.
200 IQ plays from RussianPapi, picking up the shell at level 1.
Crazy.
Very uncommon to see that out of your solo laner in general. When you're not going for teleport, the most common relic is going to be like your blink, potentially, maybe the meditate to do some outplay, potentially with having more mana available to spam, but RussianPapi surviving that wastes time now of MuffinMan. Both of them sharing the wave in the solo lane kind of hurts Sumic from hitting level 5. RussianPapi now with access to the ultimate first.
They really needed that kill though into RussianPapi because the red buff was being invaded by Hype Unit during that time, and the purple buff too. I mean, I know Germie has what's likely, I guess, a plus matchup in terms of wave pressure here on the left-hand side, but I mean, he can't rotate over and defend those buffs by himself, not if molluskk and Benny and sometimes Gamma are all going to be there.
And that was a nice way that Hype Unit invaded that red buff, because they didn't full-on commit to the kills. It
Right.
was it was 3 players, but only 2 of them engaged, while actually Sops was committed towards the red buff.
Exactly. And it really worked out well for them. Sops, in fact, skipping out on the Blessing just entirely, goes right into the Ninja Tab by, has that Charge Morningstar ready to go too. So this Jing online a little bit faster than you might expect, because that gold wasn't spent on the Blessing to start the game off.
I like it, honestly, because if I'm looking at ways to stack items, I would much rather have a completed Transcendence to build those stacks faster for the extra mana, as opposed to a Hunter's Blessing, where I would get more attack speed anyway, where I'm not really fighting that early, if you think about it. Nice little juke there by
Yes.
Germie, showing off the mechanics. And I would rather have the sustain, so I can stay in the lane longer and use my abilities.
I think so too, as Soul having a little bit of a skirmish here in the jungle. This red buff spawn is why Hype Unit are here on this side of the map. Red buff does eventually end up getting dropped by the Order side, but can they escape with their lives? Xeno incredibly low, and Sops finds first blood. Typhoon from molluskk sets up a second, and MuffinMan has to disengage. That's 2 for Hype Unit.
Xeno using that evade and punish,
That's
trying
pretty
to
bad.
play defense. SBennyQ using that ultimate for the 35% movement speed on the disengage. Germie taking a little bit of damage there.
he might die.
molluskk.
They got him down to half HP for that, so Gamma going to be the first one to start the dive, lands the hammer, so molluskk moves in. Gamma still held the aggro for a moment, and a nice clean dive. Benny even got the kill credit for it. In the direct matchup, the best outcome.
You don't want to put your back to a Scylla that has I'm a monster.
Yeah.
When you're basic attacking, your movement speed is heavily crippled, so not only are you not seeing where the action is coming from, even if you wanted to escape, you can't react fast enough. You have to kind of see when the Scylla is going to stop. So Germie kind of outplaying himself there. If he didn't take the damage from the Scylla ultimate, I don't think that dive is a possibility.
You're exactly right on that one. It looks like we do have a pause coming out here. Soul on the side of risky behavior, needing a moment there for the squad. But you're exactly right, man. I think that I'm taking that I'm a monster there really ends up hurting him. And if I'm being honest, that I'm a monster just kind of being thrown out there, right? Like maybe I'll hit it, but SBennyQ is not living or dying by that. When he gets that damage there for free, the rest of it seems like, yeah, let's take it.
And that was off of Germie playing aggressive by his own tower line, kind of bullying SBennyQ away. It's like saying, okay, you cleared the wave, but it's time for you to go. And you can't really trade with a basic attack hunter at this early stages as a mage.
No, it's going to be pretty difficult as Soul gets caught out by those oracles. Hype Unit control both, but Soul makes it out of there, able to get a little bit of healing. But you saw Hype Unit in the skirmish just before that make better use of getting their ultimates online a little bit ahead of risky behavior. The Typhoon was there to help out, and they were able to find a pretty big couple of kills.
Yeah, people don't give molluskk enough credit, I think, even though in the jungler scene of the SPL might not have seemed like he was stacking up to the other junglers. This is a very high caliber player that can make plays look very easy, even though they're not. Being able to make the plays around the red buff, transitioning into the tower dive on the dual lane, and to constantly look for the same thematic plays. If Xeno dashes here, molluskk will go on him.
Red buff invaded again, and I think you're right to point it out. We'll talk about it later as MuffinMan brings molluskk underneath the tier 2, and he gets body blocked there, so he is going to end up falling. That's a huge pick. Here comes the Horus ult. Chernobog rotating in too. Risky behavior with a chance to find some answer-back kills, but already they've seen one escape by Sops to the middle lane. Now Gamma trying to retreat on the left-hand side as well. Good crush to deter, and Hype Unit only lose one.
No danger for Gamma there, still having his ultimate. As I was done praising molluskk,
A little too
he
far.
positions himself awkwardly between the tier 1 and tier 2. I would understand it if he had the beats, but starting off the blink right away. Germie trying to juke best he can.
But does find himself a two-man root, but SBennyQ uses the Sentinel aggressively. Can't find the damage from Crush. I'm a monster, we have to hit raw and can't. That means Germie able to make it out of there. No problemo. But about your conversation there with molluskk, right?
So-
I mean, yeah.
The presence
they might
needed to be there. Invade the red buff. You got it before. You got 2 kills before. That was great. You have teammates beside you. You got the red buff. Now, what are you doing between the tier 1 and tier 2?
Ends up overstepping. Soul gets hit by the hammer from Gamma at close range. Still has that Draconic Corruption available. He's been so patient with it here this game. I don't even know that he's dropped it, but they win the engagement even without it. The purple buff invade successful yet again, and this has been relentless pressure from Hype Unit. I mean, I know molluskk died once, but that is a drop in what has been a desert so far here for Risky Behavior.
I agree. It's a very small drop in a big bucket. I think that Risky Behavior have a high kind of building to climb, honestly. It's too many staircases, but I think that if they can just kind of lean a little bit more onto SBennyQ before he literally becomes a monster, that could be how they get back into this game. Because if you take away that Scylla, it becomes more difficult for Hype Unit to confirm objectives without that burst.
And I know Sops is 1-0-1, but it's felt like he hasn't been tremendously involved so far. Top of the net worth chart, the beneficiary of all these invades. And once he does start to get, I imagine, something like a fail knot online, since he is the Jing Wei, things are going to get even scarier for Risky Behavior at that point, because Sops has gone largely unchecked.
Man, this is so unfortunate because Hype Unit are relentless about applying the pressure of this red buff. Even Gamma on the Fafnir was enough to confirm, or out-confirm rather, MuffinMan on the Serqet. It's almost unheard of.
Gamma, yet again, this left-hand side, they have been looking after Germie all game long. Benny gets a crush out, and that damage is just enough for SBennyQ to get the kill credit. 2-0-0 now for this Scylla in the long lane.
You don't have beats, so just use your ultimate. Get out of there. As soon as you get rooted once and you see Gamma coming around the corner, expect the hammer. SBennyQ was even holding on to the ultimate. That was a kill with just a couple of crushes.
RussianPapi was looking for the blue buff invade, but was met with stiff resistance. Two members on the right-hand side, so Hype Unit go ahead and start grabbing the Gold Fury for themselves. Soul comes in to check, is stuck on top of the crush, and Gamma gets kill credit. They should be able to go back to Gold Fury, no problem.
That's disgusting. RussianPapi procs his Warrior's Blessing, gets enough mana for the dash, but it wasn't enough because Xeno was covering the option.
But he bought so much time, his Gold Fury is now confirmed. They had to commit 3 to take down one Amaterasu that they probably should have been able to get even sooner. That's a great sequence for Hype Unit, I would say, overall, considering how much they got in their favor.
I really like that play from RussianPapi. So many players don't really min-max the potential of the Warrior's Blessing, so it's always refreshing to see. Using every single mechanic you have at your disposal, not just your abilities, not just your relics, but even the items internally.
Well done there by RussianPapi. It buys his team a little bit of extra time for them to grab that objective, and they are now up about 3,000 gold, only 11 minutes in to this contest. And I pointed out the area, one of the areas where this lead's getting a problem, that's Sops versus Xeno, but SBennyQ is obviously a good deal ahead of Germie as well. He's been under so much stress this game with the rotations from Gamma. It really hasn't even been molluskk that much, it's just been this Fafnir.
Hype Unit really feels like a well-oiled machine, and they are firing at all cylinders in every single lane. The junglers making a big impact, invading the red buffs. Now, to be fair, MuffinMan is making a big impact as well on his side. 2-0-0, about half a level to a level ahead of molluskk, but the rest of his teammates are not keeping up to that same pacing.
molluskk ready to look for Germie yet again. Does have purification beads this time, makes it into the wall. This has been so much stubbornness on not using those beads. He does end up surviving, but MuffinMan ends up falling here this time.
He had the last breath. Maybe he could have immune some of that CC if he managed to get that off, but once he got crippled into the Alma Monster, dead to rights. This jungle presence from molluskk, a little bit too much, and I'm almost curious as to how Risky Behavior can stop it, and they just don't have the vision control, or either that or molluskk is completely avoiding the vision control, because there's one above red buff on the side of Risky Behavior and on the purple.
Trying to come back to lane is Germie yet again, and he'll be caught by immediate resistance. Managed to survive by like 1 HP, so SBennyQ throws in a crush to confirm the kill. 0-3-0. I don't even think this guy's going to get to play the game.
No, definitely not. Not using that ultimate even to come back to lane. This was just him walking back, and he's going to be struggling as we continue this on. And that a very thrilling performance from a Chernobog that you would expect. Now, if he can get to the late game, his attack speed steroid can certainly pop off under the right circumstances, but at this current situation, I just don't see him being a factor.
Yeah, I don't either really at this point. I mean, you like to use the Living Nightmare to get back to lane in a matchup where you're even. They're probably not going to punish that hard. But here, when he's been getting bullied by Benny, I just don't really see how he can do it. Hype even going to grab the Pyromancer.
And with already being level 11 for Germie, he still doesn't have access to the Aegis. So there's still one more chance to kill this Chernobog to really shut him out. Already a 3-level lead for SBennyQ on the Scylla.
Man, I hope he will. He hasn't really used the beads that much here either, so maybe we'll see some Aegis usage as Risky Behavior have 4 members on this side. Red buff already down, so this is just catching Hype Unit in their jungle. That will be the end for molluskk, and the poison does not quite end up spreading there from the last breath, so Hype Unit make it out.
Being level 12, Molluskk didn't back yet for access to the purification beads, so he was vulnerable to all that CC. Same though for MuffinMan. He didn't have the beads earlier in that little death at that tier 1 long lane tower. Xeno dashes in aggressively, seeing that Sumic is rotating around the corner with MuffinMan beside RussianPapi, but I think that Hype Unit want to take this fight regardless.
Yet again, Germie being caught here in the jungle.
My God.
Nearly full health by one rotation there from sBennyQ of ability. So back to the base, he must go. He really doesn't have much of a say in this.
And every time he backs, he's just missing out on more and more farm. He desperately needs this golden experience. He needs the penetration from his executioner if he really wants to get a line. And he needs level 12 for his second relic.
This is brutal. Level 15 now for Benny, and half of this wave, well, nearly half. He'll be here at least for that one melee near the front of the wave, but the tier 1 tower being forced down now. I mean, RussianPapi's not even in lane. He's been free to rotate all game long too and look around for opportunities. The map feels like it's shrinking on risky behavior. There's nowhere safe for them to go.
I totally agree with you on your point of RussianPapi being non-existent yet. These 7 kills from Hype Unit were brought to you by everyone minus RussianPapi.
They haven't even needed it.
But the late game team fights, they're going to have to rely on RussianPapi's relic usage and the Horus.
Well, as if they heard us on cue, it's right to RussianPapi's lane they go to try and punish this Chaac. Sumic was the only one who'd avoided the Eider for the most part up until now, and it's time for a 15-minute Fire Giant, and this is without Sops here to help out with it. He's way back near speed. Fire Giant at half HP, so in comes Germie to try and slow this one down, but Hype Unit happy to bait them in. They'll take the fight instead. I'm a monster. Hits 3-member. It doesn't kill, but it brings them all pretty low.
Trying to reset it now. Soul trying to get away. Storm caught off the mark, as is the Root Crush combination. Xeno hitting Molluskk, finding the last breath.
Man, there must be a magnet on Molluskk because he's attracted all of the death so far for his team. Everybody else has escaped unscathed, but you wanted RussianPapi to get involved. How do you like a tier 2 tower dive for your trouble? He puts Xeno in the ground.
It's going to be a 1-for-1 jungler for mid. They didn't get the Fire Giant, but that's the confidence that Hype Unit have. They went into the Draconic form for Gamma, using the Frenzy out of RussianPapi. Kind of a DPS check, if anything. They realized, all right, we can't get this. We did trade out 1-for-1. We're still getting the Oni Fury, and we're still getting the kills.
And remember, that was only 4 members. Sops wasn't really in that fight much at all because he was pressured out so early and had to make the retreat path. If they have Sops there for DPS on the objective or as part of the fight, instead of, you know, a basically even exchange, which is what happened, then Hype Unit are really beating him. That was with the FG involved.
And honestly, I don't think Risky Behavior knew about the FG right away until MuffinMan just like casually looks around. I think he hears it while he's moving around. As that was a completely risky play by Hype Unit. Could have been a lot worse for sure.
They made it away from it, losing what I would call the bare minimum in that engagement. Doug, can we take a look at these charts? I want to put some numbers to the lead we've been gassing up. 10,000 experience and 7,700 gold. That's brutal for 17 minutes in.
It is. It's a very tall hill to climb. Risky Behavior need to play defense, and they have the tools, I think, with Xeno on the Thoth. But the levels disparity is just a little bit too much. I think that Hype Unit can continue to take these fights in the jungle side, but not just 1v1s. Like, MuffinMan can easily really out-trade a Susano at this point if you can get the Cobra's Kiss first versus if the Susano can catch the Wind Siphon first.
And MuffinMan has had a good game, as you said. I know Mollusk's scoreline doesn't look great at 1, 3, and 5, but he's been active since minute 1. A huge part of all those repeated red buff invades. I got Sop so far ahead, too. I think that his impact is a little bit more than what 1, 3, and 5 might reveal.
Get double pulled already. Molluskk going into the back line, taking out the MuffinMan.
And Soul's low now. Big Final Judgment brings Molluskk low again. Yet again, he will be the sacrificial lamb, but this is still a good fight here for Hype Unit. Benny, though, not really involved. He might be able to catch Soul before the bat comes off. Sikkim misses, but it does the job. Blink gets Soul out.
Oh, the crush off the mark a little bit as well, because the beautiful Blink Sops taking out Germie, sBennyQ, just throwing out the ultimate, because why not, while the rest of his team gets the tier 2 tower.
All right, well, this is mostly lead now, because that wasn't particularly clean from Hype Unit, but they're just dummy far ahead.
You know what it was? All right, I'll give credit to sBennyQ. He was anticipating the cancel of the bat to go under the Phoenix.
And so he put the Sikkim behind him?
Yeah.
I'll give 30% chance that's right.
I'm going to give it like 50% to that.
That's still a better read of it than what I would have said. But you know what? If there was information coming, that is likely where he would have gone. So I find myself somewhat persuaded.
Because normally when you're that low, if I know there's a Scylla coming from that direction and I'm backing right where I am, I'm just going to walk back all the way.
Right.
I'm not waiting till the last moment to escape there, because if I get hit by that route, I'm dead to rights. But either way, regardless, Tier 2 tower crumbles, hype unit still on top.
They absolutely are. Tier 1 tower and right comes down as well, and Germie will take this time to come get some much-needed farm over in left. The one good thing about being this far behind is that the wave is pushed up to your tower, so in theory you can safely grab it. We'll see if that works for him.
Well, if you're sitting casually outside of your Tier 2 tower soaking up farm, you're not defending the Fire Giant. But
That's big true.
to be fair, I don't think Risky Behavior wants to defend Fire Giant.
Listen, we're going to get a lot more of these puns in through the next few weeks, but yeah, that'd be pretty risky if they were to try and come over and defend this FG. So I do think it's the right call for him to try and prioritize some farm here in this spot. One thing to note, though, it's really mostly just molluskk that has died. RussianPapi had one spill, but that the rest of Hype Unit has made it largely unscathed is a big part of why they've been so far ahead as well. They're just here farming more.
Honestly, if you can pick one person to just have all the deaths and allow everyone else on your team to just soak in all the kills, that's fine. It's called the Zatman treatment, right? You're just dying so much that you're not worth any gold or experience, while the rest of your teammates are stacked and loaded, so you don't want them to die.
That's a great point. No one plays with that shroud around them better than Zatman does. As Fire Giant being shredded, Frenzy being popped. I don't even know how much it's needed. Fire Giant already done. Final Judgment does hit home on the two big targets as Sumic comes through with the Storm Call, but I don't think Hype Unit are gonna let that slow him down. molluskk cuts Sumic down to size.
No, that Final Judgment is laughable as Hype Unit shrug it off completely. Only 3 items plus a blessing for Xeno, level 14 on the Thoth. Just not where you normally are expecting to be 20.5 minutes into the game.
Good knockup prevents molluskk's initiation there, but the real storyline's in the back where the Tier 2 tower is being shredded. And MuffinMan, I mean, I guess that is his Tier 1 tower now. He's got it. Problem is, they're going to lose a Phoenix for it. Not a great trade. Soul in some trouble, stuck right beneath the Phoenix, is able to dash, but that's going to do it for the bird. It drops down.
Very early into the game, this is a very impressive pacing from Hype Unit. They tried to go for a 15.5-minute Fire Giant. It took a little bit longer to get their first one, but already clipping away one of the birds. Looking for MuffinMan. A little bit of an ambush here on the flank.
They should be able to collapse now. Xeno has the evade and punish. That's so much distance that dash allows him to cover, so Hype Unit end up not finding much there. But I mean, they've already gotten the Phoenix, and look how much time they have left on FG. They have a lot of teams make their first siege with that much time left, and they still have that much left to go back, spend some gold, and maybe even come grab a couple other structures.
They're looking really clean right now to win the first game of this best-of-3 set, showing us why they're at the top of the North American SMITE minor league standings. We weren't sure what to really expect out of Risky Behavior when they first transitioned into the minor league, but honestly, from what I saw from MuffinMan, not a bad performance whatsoever.
Right.
The rest of his team, not an individual lack of performance, but more about a team improvement from Hype Unit disrupting what Risky Behavior was about to bring.
Agreed. Hype Unit seemed focused particularly on Germie on this Chernobog and not letting him be an impact player here this time, and it worked. My bad, maybe I spoke this into existence, buddy, but you are yet again under siege, forced into the tower, and they're there waiting on him afterwards. The Living Nightmare comes out to allow him to reposition, but they'll just switch over to Soul instead, and his life cut short.
But they did burn the Ama Monster on just such a low-level support that's going to respawn very quickly anyway, taking the fight outside of the Phoenix is Sumic.
Look how far Sops has dived here to get this kill to Germie. Finally, the Aegis comes out from him, but even that won't save his life. They did trade away molluskk again. What a surprise, as Xeno can't find much with the Final Judgment. A double kill now for Sops. MuffinMan and Sumic, the only ones left to try and defend the Titan, but there's fire minions coming from right, and left side Phoenix about to melt.
Slowly chipping away at that Order Titan are those minions. Not interested in ending the game yet, knowing Soul has just respawned in a 4-on-3. They'd rather play it safe. Disciplined is what I would call this out of Hype Unit.
That's right. They're going to take their time to spend a little bit more gold. I believe it was the short sword that just came out there for Sops, the tier 2 on his way towards what's likely a Deathbringer at this point. Titan's Bane finished for molluskk, or he probably already had that. He's working on tier 2 of a Bloodforge, I think, over there in his build path as well. So Hype Unit has some big items on the way as if they needed more power spikes.
Yeah, already seeing a Height of Urchin, 5 stacks out of Gamma. Normally this is a solo lane item, because normally you want to go more utility on your supports versus a selfish build out of your soul laners. But honestly, a lot of utility from RussianPapi's build. Contagion, Relic Dagger to amplify his teammates with more shells, more frenzies. I like this Relic selection from RussianPapi, and I also like it out of Gamma, going for the upgraded Horrific Emblem, reducing the damage potential there, and even the attack speed.
Should be strong here for this squad. We've talked a lot about what Hype Unit have done well in this game, and totally, I mean, we're 19k down now here in this game. It even feels tough to talk about how they make a base defense at this point, as Soul is being committed on, is able to find the dash. They bring Sops down quite low, and that's a big kill, but Airstrike allows him to reposition, so he ends up surviving. Way into the back line goes RussianPapi. Final Judgment does do some good damage to Benny, and maybe Risky Behavior can hang on after all.
Sentinels away from that Chaac ultimate, barely out of the dodge action is Sops. MuffinMan lingering around the backside, was hoping to pluck the wings away from the Jing way, but instead will back to base, heal up. Left and right side Phoenix are still exposed. Titan sitting at about 60% health. Hype Unit, they don't have the Fire Giant buff anymore. I think they will reset to go for it now.
I think we may have been not giving Chaac quite enough credit, man. Some of these storm calls have been really impactful this game. Xeno just needs a little bit more time, and then this Final Judgment's going to hit a lot harder. He's working on Obsidian Shard. When that's finished, that is a significant power spike for him too. So this is the conversation I was starting before. I mean, what can Risky Behavior try and work on to try and salvage this game?
Honestly, it's going to come down to a huge misplay from Hype Unit. With this kind of a lead, 20,000 gold at 25.5 minutes in. Almost unheard of, honestly.
Yes.
But crazier things have happened in SMITE's history past. So we'll see if this is one of those epic times in SMITE history.
Well, Risky Behavior, at this point, playing a bit with house money, with how far behind they are. Anything they'd be able to pull off here would be impressive, considering the deficit they're fighting into. Hype Unit have 4 in right. Molluskk was cheating towards mid a bit, but he'll rejoin the group to try and cut down the right side. Phoenix, it's now below half, and Sops continues to free cast. Molluskk has found himself Xeno. Sumic trying to make his way back out too, but comes right back in to the dazzling offensive. That's a triple kill for Molluskk. MuffinMan has to retreat, and the rest of Hype Unit should really just start barreling onto the Titan.
Oh, sBennyQ will get the kill onto MuffinMan just for good measure. Game 1 goes to Hype Unit.
Hype Unit grabbed this game, and in all honesty, it has not been in much doubt all game long. 26.5 minutes is all that it takes for them to seal that game with a 21,000 gold lead.
Huge shout outs there to Molluskk being the sacrificial lamb to allow the rest of his teammates to thrive. The pressure onto the solo lane didn't really work out for MuffinMan that one time where there was that early pressure. We were asking, like, okay, where is that early pressure? It's got to be to abuse the Amaterasu. They tried. The shell from RussianPapi kept himself alive. And then since then, we didn't really see that early pressure from there on out.
Man, what a pickup from him, apparently, with that shell. It really worked out from the early game. We've kind of spent the whole game singing the praises of what Hype Unit was able to do well. Maybe they have some other pieces of analysis on the desk.
Nope. Nope, not going to happen. It's me on the desk. That doesn't happen. Hype Unit take down game 1, but I do have an analyst, a very intelligent and wise greatest caster, according to a Buffalo Wild Wings employee just recently, Aggro Ryan Bailey, joining me. I'm sure he can break down and analyze that set.
Look, man, it's not like there was a whole bunch of other casters there or anything like that. It's not like you and John Finch and Tom F. Battinger were like all there with me. I'm sure that if they would have noticed that we were all there at the same time, that
we just scream words and excitement. You sit there and pretend to understand what a player is going through.
It's all up here, man. It's all in the iron
trap. Walk me through what was going through Hype Unit's mind in that game.
This is pretty easy, is probably what they were thinking a lot of the time. I mean, they really did stomp them down. molluskk spent a lot of time over in that long lane in the early stages of the game. Germie fell so far behind sBennyQ, and sBennyQ was playing this late game Scylla. Xeno on this Thoth in the mid lane. There's a reason we're putting it where it can get farm.
In the duo.
It does. It just didn't get enough farm for him. Still farmed a little bit of damage, but if he wasn't super far down, he might have been able to one-shot sops or sBennyQ, just never came to existence.
Yeah, definitely did see a little bit of Xeno rotating more towards the duo lane than sticking around for farm sometimes in that middle area, which definitely had more of a knock-on effect as the game continued on. Hype Unit, though, take down game 1, as to be expected with how they've been looking so far this minor league split. But now it's into game 2, and we'll see if they can answer back here. Risky behavior.
Risky behavior, like we said, I mean, it's behavior.
Is it behavior?
It is behavior, yep. Risky business.
What a great name. Whoever decides to give
behavior.
them that name, or whether they got that name or not, come on.
It's pretty good.
Come on.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Give me a break. There's been enough drama in the minor league already.
Would you have preferred the second iteration of 5 Angry Men?
How about good behavior? How about that? How about something the North American League hasn't had in a while? Picks and bans already.
I can't say that.
Yeah, no, you're American. That's why. You're part of the problem.
You're the savage.
Part of the problem, not the solution.
It's kind of like your thing. It's your identity. It's your brand, so to speak, being the savage. I get it.
Oh, man, you're still resting on that. Still.
Yep.
After all this time.
It's still
It's
funny.
all you've got.
It's still funny.
Still all there is. Risky business with the first option, and they're going to take away Oleron's their first ban. ISIS in response. What's this music? We went from rocking out in game 1 to
It's dramatic.
trancing in game 2.
Oh, wow. We changed it up. Okay.
Welcome to the afternoon broadcast of the minor league. The Risky Business versus Hype Unit set is right around the corner. This afternoon you'll be treated to the pleasure of not seeing Oleron, Horus, Set, or ISIS.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I feel like I'm walking through a mall, but like a high-class mall. One where I'm like, I don't think I can afford anything in here. Why am I here in the first place? But there's someone on the piano, like, playing this song.
And then you look over behind him, there's a sales sign that says 60% off, and it's still $200 for anything in there.
Yeah, I can't afford that.
Feels good. Is Anami taken away again by the Hype Unit? The smooth, chill, relaxing afternoon will not be as smooth and chill and relaxing for Risky Business anymore, unless Thor arrives on the scene.
MuffinMan, the only one who was able to make a couple kills happen there for risky behavior in game 1. Give him the priority pick here in game 2.
You look like
Makes some
fun.
sense to me.
Let's play.
This best at pick makes less sense to me. This is Hype Unit probably experimenting a little bit, feeling like they can get away with a little bit more against a newer team to the league.
Bastet, though, we've seen now and again picked up mainly by Verizial in the Pro League more than defense. I'm really chilling this music. This is just too good. I'm just
It
like,
really
yeah.
did take you back to Scream's old name.
It did. Well, Scream, Verizial, what was it before that? Scream.
Yeah, it was Scream, Verizio 1, Scream.
Yeah.
But now it's Scream with
5
5
M's.
Yep, count.
Is that because somebody stole his old name? I hope it is. That's what you get for changing names so much. But the Bastet pickup, we don't see it too much. However, there is a new item in the game. And I do want to touch on it real quick. It does 3% of a person's health per ability. It's Hot Seeker.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It shouldn't apply on the cats, though, so you're only getting it 3 times, because the pets don't usually apply
Only
those
3.
on effects. Yeah, I mean, it's good still. It's a lot of power. It's some pen. It's a good late game option for these ability assassins who have been struggling. I don't think Bastet is nearly as bad as people say she is.
I agree.
I don't think she's super great. She's definitely not top 2 pick great. It's really, again, Hype Unit probably feels like they can get away with trying a couple things here in this setup.
Capri and Amaterasu locked in, this time for Risky Business or Behavior.
Yep.
I'll get it right one of these days. Discordia, though, is definitely someone we don't see too much of just lately.
No, but Finch is going to lose his mind the entire time on the cast because he's going to say Strife is a super overpowered ability.
It is.
Does everything. It's a good ability.
You don't think it's OP?
It is not even close to top 5 abilities. Not non-ultimate abilities in the game. It's not even close.
Name the 5 above it.
Sikkim is definitely better. 100%.
At max rank.
Sure.
That at rank 1 is better than Sikkim.
You have no
Disqualified.
damage. What do you... No.
Disqualified in the first example.
You have no damage at all. What do you mean?
It wave clears more effectively than Sikkim too. Get out of my face, Ryan. How are you an analyst? How do people like this guy? He don't make sense. See how I caught my pen, by the way, when it rolled off the table? That's the mood I'm in.
Listen, man, just because one server of Buffalo Wild Wings liked my casting doesn't mean you have to be so upset. It's going to be okay.
I'm not upset no more. The music's playing.
That's right. In this game alone, Ama 1 is a better ability than Strife. That ability is.
We could argue that as the tunes get louder, my mood gets better. Kyron and Merlin and Osiris the final picks. John Finch, Anatoly. Close out my day, boys.
Did he say Amo 1 is better than Strife? Did Aggro just go off the desk saying that just now? Alrighty then.
I like Amo 1.
Yeah, it's better, by the way.
Okay, aggro. Go back to Buffalo Wild Wings if you just want yes men, buddy. Oh, no one's got time for him today. Anyways, we're into game number 2, Hype Unit.
What did I walk into? I'm glad I wasn't there.
Strife is
I
so
hate it when
good.
mom and dad argue.
It's so good. Love that ability. Gamma being aggressive, trying to strip away the yellow buff. Excuse me, guys. Too busy thinking about how much aggro is buns to worry about which color buff that was, but it was the yellow buff. Speed buff that Gamma was trying to come invade. MuffinMan defends that one successfully and continues on his way. Gamma will continue to harass.
Normally you see this on more aggressive supports, like the assassin, the warrior supports.
Right, not Gab.
Not the Gap, but I mean, when you're...
Look at these rocks. He's just taking them.
Well, it's because MuffinMan doesn't have the health pool advantage, but I think that's going to quickly turn around as Gamma realizes there's a wild Amaterasu on the loose.
That's right. Sumic rotates over to make sure that MuffinMan does not struggle in that engagement. Gamma blinks in
Smart
to catch
blink.
him off guard with the shockwave, and it works. That pulls them off the blue buff. MuffinMan even uses beads there, and all this time, RussianPapi's gotten blue. He's going to go finish clearing the wave. Now Gamma's wasting 2 members' time.
So much time is being wasted. MuffinMan's
got it.
back gets canceled out as well.
No way Gamma lives, right?
No, Gamma's
he's
definitely
fine.
He's fine. Molluskk is here now as RussianPapi. That blue buff is gone unless Soul can miraculously steal this.
That is a very strong opening just now for Gamma, man. The way he was able to waste MuffinMan's time,
Wow.
along with that of Sumic, stealing away the blue buff, getting RussianPapi, all that farm to himself. I mean, that's about as good as you can want that opening to go.
Oh my god, this is so absurd. Now Xeno is forced to beads and cavalry charge basically back into his own tower. Molluskk diving that. Is that a kill?
There's the bleed damage on the Xeno, but gets a little bit from the Khepri passive, and that saves him. Was that all that saved him?
I think it was, because no, it definitely wasn't a shell. Soul has the blink instead. I have never seen a Khepri passive saving somebody.
Well, you don't have any control over the timing of it, right? It's ticking periodically, so
Yeah.
it just worked out in that situation.
That's
Maybe
insane.
it's such a thin margin that he might have survived either way, but I much prefer the storyline where he just got saved by that.
Oh yeah, Xeno can only watch because he can't defend his own tier 1 tower being that low in the health pool. RussianPapi with complete control in this matchup now because normally Osiris wins this matchup with both players having blue buff, with neither player having blue buff, but when you don't have blue buff and the Osiris does, that's when it gets even more lopsided.
It gets out of control. And remember, that blue buff timer now is way off of the speed buff timer because of how delayed it was when Gamma took it. That means when you're on the right-hand side to grab speed, you have to come back again later to help with blue.
That's right. RussianPapi can grab his own blue, look for the invade on the enemy blue buff afterwards. The Totem of Coups are going to go to Hype Unit every single time, already with 2 thus far. That's 250 gold just from that one objective.
And that's why you see supports doing this, man. It's just that valuable sometimes when they're able to slow down that initial jungle clear that effectively. I mean, it's really not much else supports could be doing that is more valuable than setting behind the jungler and the soul laner that dramatically.
And even though Gamma's level 2, whereas Soul is level 3, just now tipping over to level 3 is Gamma, it's a worthy sacrifice.
Sure.
You don't want MuffinMan to be level 5 with that Anvil of Dawn.
MuffinMan uses the hammer as sBennyQ solos Germie. It looks like that was indeed the case. Didn't even have to use beads. Neither one did. And the Discordia comes out on top. I bet it was Strife, by the way.
It probably was Strife, if I'm being completely honest with you. Gamma not able to strip away the blue buff this time around. Might have bit off more than he can chew. It's a 4-player rotation out of risky behavior.
This is one way to make sure that your blue buff doesn't repeatedly get stolen. You rotate over 4 different members. RussianPapi by himself could not help, and Gamma does end up falling there in trade.
But look at all the farm that they're missing out on. It's like oracles are going the way of the left side now as molluskk is making that rotation, missing about half a wave in the mid lane. Even 3-way splitting it, like that's got to feel bad. Sops already with the level advantage.
molluskk is in the back, stealing away these back harpies, and looks like he should get away with it. So if we've got a moment, can we go back and take a look at that first blood since we weren't able to see what happened in the moment? sBennyQ is a good deal ahead of Germie, and Germie considering the back, but thinks better of it.
Let's see what happens here.
Oh,
He
it's
gets hit by
Strife.
the Strife, couple of basic attacks there. Immunes the slow as well. Gets away from the blizzard damage. Nice plays.
It wasn't Strife as much as I wanted it to be. Okay, that's fine. Gamma, though, in some trouble here yet again. He's burning in the Merlin flames, and that will be a much-needed kill now for risky behavior. Gamma just gets caught, stuck in between a good rotation from the long lane.
That was a huge crossfire play between Xeno, shots on one side, the flames out of Germie on the other. But despite the sacrifice, Hype Unit, without the player advantage, still successfully invades the bus because they have the health pool advantage.
Strife onto Soul, that cuts off his retreat. Now he can't abduct either because he's been crippled, and that sets up for Benny to find a nice kill with a little bit of help there from molluskk, and a purple buff invade on the back end. I like the idea with that frost stance, but just doesn't get there in time.
Oh, at the end of the day, that was a support for support, but +2 buff advantage now for Hype Unit. Granted, it is the enemy buff, so you're not getting the full experience and the full gold, but it's still the denial of those two factors that you're preventing your opponent from having.
It's still exactly a two-way swing, right? It's farm you're getting that they're also losing. They normally should have, and all of your own buffs are back there for you to get. If anything, Hype Unit haven't been as on top of their own buffs, if only because they've been doing so much successful invading this time that they can't be right there on their timers.
Sumic will get his blue buff yet again. It would have been really problematic if he gets denied that on several occasions. RussianPapi, though, still with an experienced lead, opts to go finish off the Glad Shield as most solo laners do, whereas Sumic tries to get off the mobility. We might see some early rotations as a result.
I think we saw this last time too, where he went with the boot early on. Not 100% sure if that was Sumic or not. But either way, we'll see if he can keep up with that extra Glad Shield sustain from RussianPapi as Germie gets a decent trade here up against Benny. And Benny's gone Bancroft's talent early. We don't see that nearly as much anymore. Sometimes on Olorin, but that's about it.
Yeah, that basic attack damage and the abilities with that 100 magical power might have been the reason we saw that early first blood going for that kind of aggressive opening. It makes you very susceptible towards getting ganked, though, without the mobility that you're expecting from the boots.
There's a couple of really key wards here. One by blue buff, one down by these back harpers on the left-hand side, and one by red as well. And Hype Unit are using that information from those buffs to make all these invades work. Strife pulls beads because you literally have to beads it. Ultimate comes out from Discordia and that wisp, but MuffinMan still low. It will be the cats that seal it. No, they get stopped. They keep moving to try and chase, but it's not going to be enough damage. MuffinMan barely survives.
But the red buff can't be said about that the same. Stripping that away is going to be sops. molluskk still in position towards invading the purple buff. Xeno going to use his ultimate very early. SMITE in a little bit of trouble.
Sumic is all the way here on the left-hand side. They got to get something out of this if he's going to be here instead of farming. RussianPapi's on his way too, but he'll take some time to grab the mid lane. Strife catches Xeno, but Sumic does catch up to Benny.
That's the problem with not going boots this early. You just can't get away. A great rotation from Sumic that did have the boots and the Amaterasu aura to play catch-up.
Yeah, and RussianPapi just didn't get here in time. That's a good point. He didn't have boots either, did he? A pretty slow team for Hype Unit, and I think that's what gives Sumic that narrow edge to be able to catch up to Benny. But again, that's all catch-up, man, and it's all them trying to make up for the fact they've been losing buffs repeatedly, and they haven't been able to farm as efficiently. A couple of misplaced kills are not that big a deal as MuffinMan went up.
I don't know if he has the range, though, to make a play onto anyone besides molluskk. Okay, he went towards the blue buff instead. RussianPapi can't really do much about it unless he can get one slow, but with a speed buff, hard to really catch up to this Thor. So that was important because Germie got a whole wave while SBennyQ was dead. Plays catch up in that experience department.
So Gold Fury now being looked at, and I'm not sure that Germie recognizes it happening. He's backing, but risky behavior are also dropping it, or rather Hype Unit are.
So Hype Unit thought that Germie was going to contest the Gold Fury, so they're like, you know what, let's just not miss out on a wave, because if they reset the Gold Fury and they just waste all that time, now they're conceding a whole wave under that tier 1 tower.
Man, that's crazy. If they were willing to pull it initially to consider, so you initially pull it, hoping that you're baiting Germie into a bad fight, not really wanting to stay on the Gold Fury, is about the only line that I can see there that I think makes some sense. Obviously, we have the aerial view, so we knew it was safe, but in the end, Hype Unit don't end up with very much from that in particular play, and now they could get collapsed on. There's a 3-man rotation from risky behavior.
He avoids the root, but he can't avoid the stun. MuffinMan going to take a lot of return damage, but the save!
The Scarab's blessing there from Soul. That was hot. Make sure that he keeps his man alive. Hype Unit still want this red buff invade. They've got sops and Gamma both here, and they do indeed strip the buff away. But they're going to look for a little bit more, too. two-man Cataclysm, and MuffinMan never stood a chance. Desert Fury came out as well, but molluskk got the credit.
Oh, sops going to need to avoid some shots, but the root going to set up Xeno.
All right, so now this is starting to be a little bit too much for hype unit. Risky Behavior are making the right rotations. They're bringing too many people sometimes over to defend buffs, and that's exactly what you have to do to stem the bleeding.
They definitely are being a little bit overextended. They need to prioritize more farming instead of invading potentially. Clear out mid-wave, clear out the long lane. Positioning between Tier 1 and Tier 2 to clear the wave this early as a Discordia doesn't make sense.
Nice Geb shield there to try and prevent the damage, but it might have been better if it was there to prevent the stun or to cleanse on the back end. Either way, molluskk ends up falling. Purple buff invade as Risky Behavior now get to turn the tables a little bit onto hype unit. And I think that you're right, Totally. Hype unit are starting to overstep a bit.
The second important rotation from Sumic there, catching out molluskk under his own Tier 1 tower. Very important pickoff now. This level 8 Bastet not getting the momentum that you would really want, especially when you just finish off Transcendence. You're trying to play the stacking game, get that 1,050 mana online.
This start, though, for hype unit finally starting to slow down to a bit more of a crawl. Doug, bring up the chart tier for me, my man. Let's take a look and see if there's been a bit of a dent put in here. Experience is where you can really tell. It was up near 2,000. Now it's been brought back up much closer to parity, around 400. Gold's still about 1,500 for hype unit, but the numbers don't lie. A lot of their early lead has started to fall away.
Slowly chipping away at this long lane tower as well, at about 10 to 20% of its health pool. I want to see some rotations, maybe in the mid lane, coming out of sBennyQ once he clears this wave. The same way Sumic is kind of avoiding the solo lane to rotate mid.
Soul abducts onto Gamma. He has a couple members nearby if they want to commit, but now a pretty key cooldown is missing. But sops can't afford to stick around for red. This is too many members. MuffinMan dives to the back line, but it's Germie who's the early target. He has the ultimate on top of him, but he also gets the Scarab's Blessing, and it's procced. That means that he'll res right into RussianPapi. Cataclysm from Gamma doesn't find much, but the cats should be able to hunt Germie down, but Sumic gets an answer too.
Gonna find a 2-for-1, make that a 2-for-2. molluskk getting himself a double kill. It is still a 3-on-3, so I don't expect the Gold Fury to be started anytime soon, but I think hype unit can continue this red buff invade.
But molluskk taking too much damage. Xeno does a good job there slowing him down, but Strife slows down the chase. But look at all the extra movement speed. If that Amaterasu wanted to catch up, she could have.
She definitely can at level 12. You now maxed out that aura to get the 25% movement speed.
Goodness.
It could be even more if you go for Shield of Regrowth, because you're going to get a little bit of self-sustain online. But just now finishing off the Breastplate of Valor for the 20% CDR and extra MP5.
That's just so much. Sumic has made this Amaterasu pick look particularly strong here this game. And we've been talking about all day, Totally, about why this Amaterasu is starting to see a little bit more value. And she's always been decent, but the early lane can struggle. A little bit of a push sometimes is all it takes to bring a pick back into relevance.
I definitely agree. If it's not Amaterasu for the late game presence out of the solo lane, it's normally the Guan Yu's that we forget about that has the team fighting potential.
Right.
And RussianPapi likes the Guan Yu as well. It's one of his go-to gods when he's trying to like really hardcore solo carry games, at least in ranked from what I've seen. But playing the Osiris is always a good competitive god when you're mitigating a lot of self-damage coming your way or lowering your opponent's damage with the tether.
Well, Totally, I know Risky Behavior is still behind, but I love what we're seeing from them in Game 2. Because to come in, taking a slot with a fresh schedule or fresh standings, and then to get smacked in Game 1, this is a huge turnaround for them in Game 2 as Sumic is way on the back line, rotating in. Sops the early target, and up into the air when MuffinMan, who can chase him with the leap. That means Sops gets melted, and MuffinMan's not done fighting yet. He forces molluskk to jump away.
Yeah, this is just too much aggression coming through. Sops has put himself repeatedly in positions he can't come back out of. The Geb shield just not enough to save him. He was anticipating the landing from MuffinMan, tried to instantly impale him. The timing was a little bit off, and with that third death now, and a 1-level lead for Xeno, it's Risky Behavior to start this Gold Fury.
Gamma has Blink and the Cataclysm, so he uses them both. Risky Behavior get the objective, but in comes the apple from Benny. It really only finds Sumic, who's able to dash to reposition. Risky Behavior have brought this game even closer to parity with the Gold Fury, but can they make it back out? Xeno in some trouble, but gets some help from MuffinMan to stop the cats.
Gonna find the wall to block off the pathing. molluskk is not done yet, gets spotted out by Soul, but this is all a zoning tool to grab the red buff, grab the purple buff, even though risky behavior. Grab the Gold Fury, a very important objective, mind you. They're not even getting their own buff still at this point in the game.
And the tier 1 tower is going to come down. Maul's is able to come through and find some harpies. Might even get blue if he sticks around. Probably can't now with this many members of risky behavior on the way, but he'll stay either way and get away with it. That's perfect. I mean, you're right. They almost got a Gold Fury worth of value back, but in comes the Amble of Dawn. Sops jumps away. Wall trying to slow him down the retreat, but it's Gamma who's been caught. Xeno on a rampage with 5 in a row.
Oh, MuffinMan, though,
Jesus.
couldn't get out of that one. The Scarab's Blessing was not intended originally for Xeno, but it bails. No, it doesn't bail him. At the timing from Papi was perfect.
That was nearly first frame that the Scarab's Blessing dropped off. Perfect there for RussianPapi saving this fight. He really hasn't been that involved this game long, but he's ready to make his name known. molluskk jumps in as well, and Germie starts to melt. Able to use the flicker to reposition, but Hype Unit answer back.
And wow, Xeno was anticipating the revive. He even holds onto his Centaurus ultimate, because that could have been another delay tactic if he wanted to, but what a timing from RussianPapi. Whether or not that was calculated doesn't matter, because Hype Unit are fully benefiting from it.
And look at this. Look how they spread the map. Benny is threatening the tier 2 in mid. Won't get that. But they have Sops over in right to grab the tier 1 there. And they have molluskk pushing up the tier 2 in left. And look at the experience. Right back down to around 5,500 in favor of Hype Unit. But that might answer.
Yeah. Sops can't catch a break. Level 12, he didn't have the Aegis available quite yet. Will pick it up now, as Sumic wasn't able to defend the tier 1 tower. Not a good look for Sops, unfortunately.
It hasn't been very many good looks for him at all this game. You're exactly right. 0-4-3. And a lot of it self-inflicted. Sops has been very aggressive this game, but at the same time, he's also been a focal point. MuffinMan has ulted him multiple times.
You can also use the Obelisk to intercept the Desert or the Dazzling Offensive.
Right, to try and like body block.
Exactly, because it doesn't go through walls, so you can at least block the second, maybe the important third shot to prevent the stun and still walk away. But then again, to be fair, this level 15 Amaterasu, with that much movement speed, I don't think you survive either way.
molluskk in some trouble now as he went aggressively into the enemy jungle, has to use the beads to get away from Xeno. I think that might have been the slow that he was trying to avoid there from the Chiron, and is able to regroup with the rest of the squad.
Xeno was really feeling himself dropping that ultimate like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, even if he hits all 3 shots, I don't think that's a kill.
I don't think so.
This Blackthorn Hammer on the Bastet gives you plenty of health to survive that, and I don't think Xeno was considering that as soon as he pressed 4.
No, that felt very much like a bit of a rhythm shot, right? To just immediately go into the ultimate after you forced out the beads, and really wasn't much chance of him finding anything there. The apple doesn't get the good bounce, so Benny cannot confirm it. Strife off the Mark II, and Germie should now be A-OK.
I like sBennyQ's aggression, though, having this 3-level lead. He actually even tries to use the Aegis to absorb some of the damage out of Germie. molluskk is going to be considering this tower dive on the Bastet.
That's right, he's going to be able to grab these harpies too, but he doesn't even want to do that first. Just going to go right to the blink, and then the cat scratch and the ambush, or the jump rather, is a little bit too much damage. And Pounce, I think it's overlooked.
Oh, yeah.
That is a dummy amount of damage it does.
It really is.
MuffinMan dunks into the back line, and here's molluskk and sBennyQ waiting for him. He lines them both up, but the cats come back out. That forces the Scarab's Blessing.
Somebody's going to have to fall, and that's going to be sBennyQ, question mark, right heel from Gamma.
But he does end up getting rooted, and that means Sumic can get into position to abduct, brings him back, and finally, sBennyQ ends up falling. But now RussianPapi has joined the show here on the left-hand side. This has just turned into a bloodbath.
Yeah, molluskk is like, I can still help, I'm here, I'm 10% health best. I'm like, no, buddy, you need a back. Fury not due to respawn for another 30 seconds. MuffinMan getting the Scarab's Blessing for the movement speed to retreat. Sops gets the Geb shield, can't invade the red buff again. Ultimate out of Sumic is down, but he dashed away. He's going to get stunned out.
He could potentially be in some trouble. Manages to avoid the tether because RussianPapi cannot keep chasing, but the pace of this game has just been relentless. Constant action and fighting this time. If you're Hype Unit, if you're in those comps, you gotta tell them to calm down. Remember, they have a huge lead. The aggression is correct, but channel it. Focus it into the right spots.
That's right. 20 kills in less than 20 minutes of play collectively, as we're seeing Hype Unit not on the better end of the kill department, but on the better end of the gold, and slightly on the experience. It's looking like a good way to close out this best-of-3 set.
If they can, but risky behavior won't be making things easy here for Hype Unit like in Game 1. This has been a much more closely contested match. The rotations have been much better. I think this draft has worked for them. They look comfortable on these picks. But someone's got to get comfortable around the Primal Fury because Hype Unit have it at half HP already, and Sumic's the only one that's even nearby. Gold Fury down really low, and Hype Unit able to grab it, and now they can collapse on a Sumic, but a sick wall over the wall from MuffinMan cuts off the chase.
Gonna find a nice route with the Lord of the Afterlife. Scarab's blessing onto Sumic. He barely dashes away. Gamma not able to blink in. It was still on cooldown.
Would not have been able to quite catch him. MuffinMan will immediately take to the sky and does so in time. So that means Sops can't find that kill. But Hype Unit continuing their aggression. They're going to look for a wraparound here on the Tier 2 tower, and it's Germie and Soul who could potentially be caught out. Germie melts immediately. Too much damage from Benny.
Just didn't have the supporting cast around him. Everyone kind of scattering around like cockroaches as Hype Unit, now with a 5-on-4 advantage, gets a Tier 2 tower after that Primal Fury, looking very poised to take this second game.
And Benny has had himself a set here, hasn't he? In Game 1, so far ahead of Germie with a lot of help on that long lane. Game 2 is the same case. Level 19 on this Discordia, and second in his team and in the game in terms of player damage. I mean, it's been a really strong performance.
He's just a confident player. It doesn't matter if he's playing hunters or mages. It's not that he disrespects his opposition. It's just that he knows his own capabilities, as the matchups are always in the back of his mind. As finding that solo kill, I think, gave him the confidence towards making the plays. And not only that, you have trust in your jungler to play cleanup, even if you don't succeed in your own plays.
Exactly right. I mean, sometimes people play giving their opposition too much credit. Benny says, prove it when he comes in and plays. Prove that you can slow me down. And that's when he'll start adjusting his play as they force MuffinMan out.
Interesting use of the ultimate from RussianPapi, but if you're not going to use it in this next team fight, zoning away a Thor that could easily Anvil of Dawn you as you're doing a Fire Giant, not a bad look either.
Maybe not. Sumic is the only one that seems to realize, but he has to come back to check molluskk. I'm still not even sure the risky behavior know this Fire Giant's happening, and Soul can't make it in. I think that play from RussianPapi kicked the door wide open for that FG for Hype Unit.
Soul gonna get consistently slowed down. His ultimate is up. The Cataclysm being used. Striped as well. Even if he revives, I think he's still dead.
He's certainly in some trouble. That apple somehow makes it all the way to MuffinMan and nearly spreads all the way over, so instead RussianPapi has to do it with the flail. molluskk sitting on top of Xeno, waiting on the time to run out on the Aegis. Shockwave is there, and that sets up for the basic.
Just on the tip as molluskk cleans it all up. Middle Phoenix goes down as well. molluskk will probably die here, but I think it's worthy.
He's able to make it back out 5-1-4. A much better job staying alive this game as mid Phoenix burns to a crisp. Hype Unit right outside the Titan room, but not ready for an all-in attempt just yet. Instead, they'll collect themselves and retreat. Yet again, they got a Phoenix early on their Fire Giant buff timer.
That was a pretty cool strive to see. The true power of it.
It's a good ability.
RussianPapi will actually back. No, they all cancel at the same time.
Hey, we're just trying to see if they can bait risky behavior to step forward yet again. RussianPapi forces MuffinMan to teleport to the hammer, and this time they actually are very likely done.
They are done this time around. And I love the teamwork from Hype Unit. It's not just those traps that they were able to set up there. The team fight before that, when it was Soul and Sumic running together, holding hand in hand through the dangerous woods when the wolf is kind of chasing them down. They had to separate because of the apple. Sumic has to go away from MuffinMan as well. Truly a zoning ultimate. We say zoning ultimate in jest sometimes.
Sure.
But that time, that was for real.
It certainly was. MuffinMan takes to the sky, maybe looking to catch out Benny, who will be at the purple buff, unsuspecting any such aggression. Can't quite hit with Anvil of Dawn, but is in range, uses the ultimate to avoid the CC chain and to put out some necessary damage. But MuffinMan gets deterred. He can't follow up on Soul, and Benny, just out of range of Xeno, manages to avoid getting hit by the Centaurus as well. Perfectly executed. molluskk intentionally popping that Scarab's Blessing to keep Soul as far back as possible, and they get Xeno too.
And they can keep going if they really want to. molluskk already anticipating where Soul is going to end up. Gamma gets off the Cataclysm and prevents the root as molluskk looking to clean up.
Yeah, this is just trouble now for Soul. I know he's on this Khepri, and he's a beefy target, but the slow about to come through too. molluskk now with 7 in a row, unstoppable. Germie in some trouble too. He has now fallen. RussianPapi gets the credit, and with just Sumic alive, Hype Unit should be able to barrel into the Titan room. They're popping the Frenzy. It's at half HP, and Hype Unit should be able to grab this game 2-0 as long as they focus on the Titan.
Grabbing the Titan now, putting them up at 6-1 in the standings. Unfortunate first opponent for Risky Behavior. Welcome to the SMITE Minor League.
Yeah, don't worry, fellas. No one else really seems to know how to beat this team either. They have been a force here in Phase 2 in the North American Minor League, even with the likes of Armada and Sanguine out there. So don't take that one too hard. Game 1 was obviously rough, totally, but Game 2 was where we saw the big adjustments.
It really was. I like the fact that Hype Unit was still pressuring the red buff, but they started to get a little bit sloppy when they were going between Tier 1 and Tier 2. sBennyQ made some good plays on the Discordia, but that proxy farming was when he got a little bit too overextended. And even a team like Risky Behavior that is new to the minor league North America team have experienced players that can punish you if you overstep like that.
That's exactly right. You got to make sure that even in matches where you're heavily favored, they're still being played cleanly all the way throughout. I mean, we talk all the time about building up those positive habits. You're going to need those when you're in tougher matches.
I got to say, Sumic's rotations on this Amaterasu once he got the boots was the first stepping stone. It just wasn't enough for Risky Behavior.
That's right. Couldn't quite even things out there. But we still have to break down a little bit more here in the minor league. We're almost done. I'll get it back over to the desk.
Thanks again, Finch and Anatoly, for a lovely cast to here this afternoon. Hype Unit take down the set 2-0 over Risky Business. With you, look, Behavior.
There it is. You got close. I mean, you wrote it down. Good try, man. I've got it. I can close out the day, I suppose. We're almost to the end anyways. As Hatoli said, a tough opponent for Risky Behavior to come in and try and get their minor league debut going their way. Hype Unit has looked very good all year up until this point, and they continue to look good in this one. molluskk 8-1 on the Bastet. Made it work. Welcome back, Graham.
Okay, let me try again.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the desk. Thank you so much, Finch and Anatoly, for the wonderful cast. What a great performance by Risky Behavior.
Nice. Yes, we got there. Nicely done.
Now cut that bit out, Tyler, and then just make sure that's seamlessly for,
No, this
when
is
we go live.
It's not live to tape. Yeah, this is like, it's already out there,
Is it?
Yeah, it's not being recorded. I mean, it is being recorded, but it's also immediately live. Yeah, that's how the broadcast works.
So people are watching now?
Yeah. Yep, all over mixer.com/SMITEgame.
Okay.
It'll be all right, man.
I'll get through it.
Yeah, it's only their first week. You're getting used to it. You can read it off things like the standings graphic.
Yeah, Hype Unit, top of the shop, 6-1 after the performance here today. Sanguine and Armada close behind him, and it really is a 3-horse race now in the minor league in North America. Any of those 3 could still qualify to get to the placement stage for the World Championships. Hype Unit are a shoo-in, but it's still not guaranteed.
Yeah, it feels like they're the favorites, but they have to. They still have to keep on winning. If any of those top 3 teams win out, they're guaranteed. So if you can just take care of your own business, you'll be okay. That's got to be the focus. Don't worry about the other teams. Win your games, and you'll be fine.
But that's all we've got time for here today. Unfortunately, the minor league has come to a close for another Tuesday. Tomorrow, however, Wednesday, Esports Weekly. End of the season is approaching, so I've got some script changes for you. Check in to Esports Weekly tomorrow at 4 p.m. You don't want to miss it, do you, Ryan?
No. Wait, what was that production? They did what? They kicked who? Oh, find out tomorrow.
Taco's already gone.